as I said, I'm getting over, or at least trying to get through the last PTSD trigger. I had to sacrifice a lot with my PTSD and military sexual trauma. I don't go out. I don't go to movies. I don't go to restaurants. I pretty much stay in my apartment because that is supposed to be the safe space. Because if I go on a bus or if I try and go any place, I can't control anything. I if people want to run up and grope me, that's a crime, but nobody cares because it happened to a veteran, and that ticks me off.
Yeah.
So
And you
when
see,
I have people, come into my apartment and I have to let that happen or I'm homeless, it just it hurts. It hurts inside. It hurts inside.
no, I totally understand that, man. Right now, I'm currently living with my father, and that's gasoline in a match. All right. Because he is absolutely unsupportive. He thinks that the way I dress is terrible. He can't stand the fact that I'm pagan because he's Christian. There's a lot of problems that go on there. And I have to literally cater to this man so that I can have a place to stay myself. And Shuck, you're wrong for that. Sorry, my dog just passed gas. It was awful. Uh, but, that's dogs for you.
When my dog does it, it's just you snuck that through. You
Yeah.
really did that smooth.
Yes. And I grew my beard. It's not very thick, but it's trying to. I burned it a couple of times doing my black suit. But thank you for liking the beard.
It is a great beard. I'm trying to grow it, but my beard game is awful. Absolutely awful. I
No,
really I scroll through the internet out of beard envy. I stare at beards and be like, if I just had it here, so I can just be a wizard like I normally am. I'm like all ninjutsu and like everything. I'm like, I'm the coolest person ever. If I just could get the therapy and the help that I need, and the therapy and the help that I need unfortunately costs money. You can't speak to a medical professional and say I need this and this without them saying, well, I have a college degree and the VA wouldn't pay for your college degree, so that costs money.
yeah, that's what the GI Bill is supposed to be for.
News to me because I was supposed to have been in college and then into medical school, and it's been 7 years of going back and forth with the VA just to get enough money to get college credits so I can go to medical school. And at this point, I'm so traumatized. I don't know how I'm supposed to go into medical school. I really don't know.
Well, have you thought about counseling?
I have thought about it, but I've had such terrible physicians. Just medical malpractice in the VA is something that people don't talk about because they say, well, you get medical care, aren't you? You're not paying any medical bills. And when you do pay medical bills, it's for prescriptions or something like that, where they say,
Their
well,
prescriptions are
we,
expensive, though.
we have to charge you something, but it's not the best medical care. It costs money to get decent medical care, and the VA gives you the bare minimum. Why? Several reasons, but one of them is you probably should have taken care of that yourself. Like if you have like the sniffles or something like that, or like a cough or a flu or something, drink some tea, eat some soup, and just get better. Don't come to the VA for that. So
Not
I
only that,
understand.
fruit. They're going to tell you eat more oranges. get more vitamin C, that kind of stuff. That's why I'm completely holistic medicine. Aside from my seizure meds and my schizophrenia meds, I try to keep it as holistic as possible. And it's because medical care is too expensive. And when you're poor, it's even worse. You know, I'm on disability like you are, or like you're trying to get. And man, it's as hard as it was whenever I wasn't on disability. It's just as difficult, especially to pay for my bills, to be able to pay for my prescriptions. Like you'd mentioned, them prescriptions are expensive. It's ridiculous. And all I want to try to do is help people. So I understand your frustration too with your VA thing, man, because my charity is not working out so well. I've made $15.
It's hard to get people to see reality for what it is. Everybody's struggling, and I could
Shucks
almost
away from the stand, baby.
understand the VA giving me less if the country wasn't fundamentally broken. If America was a good, decent country, and what I mean by that is you could walk down the street, whistle a tune, and skip. Just be happy walking down your street.
Yep.
I know you kind of live with your father right now, but you go into town eventually, right?
Very rarely.
Very rarely. Why is that? Is it because you just don't feel safe, comfortable, or even accepted in America anymore?
My issue is I've never been accepted. So I don't know what it feels like to be outside of that little box. So I got used to not being accepted. People fear me because I am schizophrenic. So most of the time, people don't want to be around me because I'm crazy. But the main reason why I don't go outside so much is because my dad's embarrassed about the way that I am. He doesn't like my moccasins. He doesn't mind the blue jeans and the t-shirts. But this big guy right here, oh, he can't stand this. And he wishes I'd wear a cross instead of a Mjolnir. The only thing he's okay with is my pants, my t-shirt, my hat.
You know what? I'm glad that I have you on this channel because I've said it to you several times. I live an indigenous life. I
Mhm.
like having conversations with you because you are the same exact way. I mean, you're going the whole,
Basically.
Viking route, and but you have some Native American, indigenous blood flowing through your veins. Even a drop of it is enough to connect you, and you live your life the way that it makes sense. When I'm by myself, I wear my indigenous garb, I do my indigenous rituals, and I get help from that. So much help that I recently, because this whole PTSD trigger thing has just made me reevaluate what it means to eat, because my hunger level is just thrown off because I've just been violated. It's like, do you really want to cook in a kitchen, sit down and have a meal after you've been violated? No, I don't. So I said, what am I gonna do? Because I'm not gonna spend $20 on Pizza Hut if I'm just gonna eat one bite and just feel gross about myself. Nothing against Pizza Hut, like I love their food, but right now that's not what my body needs. My body needs nutrition. My body has felt a psychic violation. And like I said, victims have rights. They have rights. So I can't punch anybody in the face for how I was treated, and I wouldn't want to be punched in the face for just doing my job.
Yeah.
But what I can do is change myself in this situation. What I can do is say, I value my health. So, what I'm going to do is change my nutrition to reflect what is going on with me mentally. Mentally, I can eat calorie, a calorically dense meal like a slice of pizza right now. I could try, but it's not what my body needs. I'm an indigenous person. I need to be true to my heritage. My heritage is telling me, you know what, you need to eat some soup. You need to
You
get
need
some
some soup. You need a stew.
protein. You need stew. You need like a meaty stew because you need starch, but the good kind, and then you need meat. Like right now, that's what my body is telling me that I need. It needs that. It needs vegetables, leafy greens. Like I've just been psychically violated, and my body is telling me that is what I need.
Yeah, and you see, when it comes down to mental instabilities, because like whenever my schizophrenia is kicking in really bad, and especially when me and my dad have had a fight, it's really hard for me to be able to eat. And it's because my mind is just telling me you're not worth it. But you've got to take and struggle and fight through that, man. You've got to be able to give yourself something to eat. I mean, yeah, sure, you can't do the pizza, but maybe just spend a little bit of money that you can and get yourself a nice steak. Cook yourself a nice steak and some mashed potatoes, you know, and that will make you feel better. There's a reason why they call it soul food, brother. You know, it,
Exactly.
it's good for the soul, it's good for the mind, it's good for the body, and just work it off. You eat too much soul food, you end up with one of them big old wide hips that can't fit through the door, you know, or you get a big old gut on you. But work it
Some
off.
people might actually find that kind of sexy.
Well, some people
You
do.
forget that I'm in the community that has lots of bears, so we find
I,
that sexy.
man, I know all about that because you know how many people have asked me to be their bear.
I have no doubt whatsoever.
Big muscular hairy guy. Yeah, I get asked a lot.
I wonder.
And not only that, it doesn't hurt that I'm a pagan, and most people are like, "Oh, you're open to all kinds of stuff." And I'm like, not that
Except that.
direction. I'm open. I'll be your
Rachel.
friend. I'll be a friend, but that's an exit.
Well,
So it's
for me, I say life is a highway. If you're going my way, I'll go all night long.
and my thing is life is a feast. So why not take the time to sit down with good friends and a good conversation and make sure that everybody has a better day? One of the things about my people, about the Vikings, is literally hospitality. A lot of people don't realize that because we were raiders, but we were raiders because we had to be. You know, we didn't have the environment to be able to grow food all winter long, so we had to go steal what we needed. And it sucks. It's the truth. But it was harsh reality of the ninth century. A lot of people did that kind of stuff. And it turned us into great warriors, is the main thing about it. It turned us into strong people. And I've learned from my ancestral heritage and eating some of my ancestral foods, with the exception of fermented fish. No, thank you. But eating like red meat, eating root-based vegetables, eating lots of grain, and then turning around and training or blacksmithing or wood carving all day, you burn all that off and it turns into straightened muscle, and it makes you actually feel better. Your digestion goes easier, your mind starts to feel better. It starts to make it easier to overcome certain issues and certain problems with proper diet. But that's the main thing a lot of people don't realize is a proper diet isn't vegan. A proper diet isn't vegetarian. We have canine teeth. We are omnivores. That is what we do. When you look at creatures that are our size, that are herbivores, none of them have canine teeth. If they do, they're for defense. You know, but we have canine teeth. We are omnivorous by nature. We have meat cutting teeth in the front and we have grinding teeth in the back. That's what we're designed to do. And that meat takes less time and energy to digest than, and so do root vegetables, than it does like leafy greens. And that actually ends up making you feel better the more you try it out. I live by a Paleozoic diet. You know, if my family is like, we're going to Pizza Hut, I'm like, I'm skipping, you know, I don't eat it. I will go
I
the night without food.
used to love it. I used to love it
Oh, I
because
still
it
do.
was the one time, everybody was super excited. You gather around the whole family, Pizza Hut, and then like they put it like in front of you. But as I'm older, I start to think about what did I learn in medieval history? What did I learn? Because did I learn that bread was pretty much invented to give to slaves and serfs and peasants so that they wouldn't feel so bad about not being able to hunt? Because what nobles used to do was find the best hunting ground and then say, well, I had a son and my son, he owns that land now. So that land is a part of the noble's land. So you can't hunt on that land. This is what Robin Hood of Locksley has always been about.
Yeah.
This whole idea of you no longer are able to hunt and the people are starving. They're starving because it's not because they lack coin, it's because they lack the ability to go and provide for themselves. As I said at the beginning, if America wasn't a broken country, you can give me less money. Like personally, I would rather be a farmer. I would rather be an astronaut, but rather be a farmer. I'd rather be able to say, I know where that food came from and I know what I want to grow and I can just choose from that. You know, we keep talking about the price of eggs. I love eating eggs. Eggs are a great source of protein, vitamins,
And
nutrition,
chickens are super easy to care for.
but the houses around me, they have chickens because I live in one of those neighborhoods. And I can only say it that way because I could say things that are so worse, but I'm trying to be nice. But I can't have a chicken in the middle of an apartment. Some people do. Some people are weird that way and they get away. And I don't know how. I mean, look, I have melanin, and even though I live in this community, there is not enough. There is not enough just Caucasian blood within me to get away with something like that. You need to be a wizard like Gandalf in order to pull that one off. Having a chicken in an apartment. That
Well, I can't say much. I had an alligator in an apartment for a while.
you live in the South, man. You try that in the middle of California and see how that flies. You could do that in Florida. You could do that in Texas. You can't do that in California. They might. You think they look strangely because you wear a Mjolnir and some gear.
Leather armor.
They're not gonna look that strangely when they say, "What the fuck is an alligator doing in your apartment?"
No, when I told him I was raising him up till he was about 3.5, 4 foot long so I could cook him, they changed their mind.
And even if that was the case, like some alligators are actually pretty friendly. It's weird to say.
My alligator that I had whenever I was a kid growing up, I had a pet one. He got about 7.5 foot long before we had to move. But we put him out in some ponds that my grandpa dug that were specifically for me to go fishing in. But we wound up finding this little alligator, and my grandpa let me bring it home. He was about a foot long when we found him. And I took care of him. That alligator was the sweetest animal I've had next to my shuck. And I could walk out. waist deep water with a bag of marshmallows and slap the top of the water, he'd pop up right beside me and just open his mouth, waiting for a marshmallow. But he never once bit me, never once tried to attack me, nothing like that. And in fact, he was notorious for running up to people and being like, "Hey, you got marshmallows?" People be sitting there and all of a sudden they hear, and they'd look down, freak out because a dinosaur is sitting there beside them, you know. But that's what happens when you grow up on 48 acres of property. You get to be a little wild. And I love to be a little wild. I love hunting. I love fishing. I love bushcraft. I love all those things. And yes, I do have a little bit of Native American blood in me. I have Apache, Comanche, and Cherokee in me. Just not enough. But I am learning how to flint now currently. So I'm trying to learn some of the indigenous people's ways of life. I'm trying to learn how to make a Native American bow. I'm trying to learn how to flint knap to make my own arrowheads because I'm not very good at it. And you know, other than that, you know, guys, a better life is ahead of you. All you got to do is go for it. You know, you can't sit back sometimes and think, "Woe is me," and just and just let it stay that way. You got to actually get out and actively try to find a way to get yourself happy again. You know, and I know what happened to you in was terrible. It's absolutely horrible what happened. Man, I had the same incident basically, but with a cattle prod. And it wasn't a woman. It was my uncle. And it was left turned on. So I got to sit there and twitch and be tasered the whole time. So yeah, I understand. But what I'm getting at is you got to actively find a way to make yourself feel better, brother.
I'm trying.
I know it's hard.
I'm trying so hard, and I'm trying to respect myself enough to speak up for what I need, because I'm not gonna be a silent person while
Exactly.
everything is going on that I should be speaking on. You know, eBay says we value your opinion, and I'm like, because you want my money? Is that
Yeah,
the
that's it.
reason? You want my opinion on life, on everything? And I'm glad that you brought up that there's a better life out there, and that you like to be a little wild. I enjoy living my indigenous life. I really do.
Hmm.
I do like a bit of technology as well. And I know you're not like a super savvy tech person, but I'm going to have to talk about this with someone, because it goes a little bit deeper than I think people understand. Xbox has always been a console. It's
Hmm.
always been a box, and you hook your TV into, and then you play with the controller. It's always been that way. But recently, within the I want to say that the last couple months, they've been trying to go in a different direction. And the direction that they're going is there's no more box.
Yeah.
There's going to be a handheld, and there's going to be
An internet receiver.
a virtual reality set that will most likely hook up to your internet. And I don't know how I feel about it, because I'm glad that they're kind of telling people the truth of the console wars have to end. If you want
Yep.
to play a video game, play the video game. You shouldn't have to say, well, my driver, or my CPU or my memory or whatever is a hindrance to playing a game. But at the same exact time, they're also saying, we want your eyeballs, we want your attention, we want your hands on this at all times.
And
By
you see I really think the government has hands in
headset like that. They're pretty much saying, we want you to be Xbox all the time. And I don't know how I feel about that as a free sovereign person.
I really think the government actually has their hands a lot in entertainment right now. I think that they're using those kinds of things like the new entertainment coming out, new video game consoles and all. I think they're using that as a way of distracting us from the real things that are going on in the world right now. Like the whole situation with India and Iran, the whole situation with Israel and Iran, the whole situation with this big problem that I face right now, which is this hatred towards white people, that has been going on a lot lately. I went out the other day and I had somebody spit in my face and call me a damn white boy. And I looked at him, I said, man, what did I do to you? I walked past you.
Hold my
He said, how
earrings.
dare you wear black? You're appropriating my culture. I said, I'm wearing my people's normal garb. I'm wearing a Viking breastplate. How is this your people's clothing? This is my people's outfit. And this is my culture. He got real mad at it. And he said that all us white folks are racist. All us white folks are systemically horrible, that we're murderers and everything. And I have not been facing this before. This is all brand new to me. And I don't know where it's coming from. But it is definitely, you mentioned the downfall of this country. And that is one of the things that I believe is leading to the downfall of this country. When you act not, it's racism. It's not just this whole hatred towards white folks. It's hatred towards anybody. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of hearing about it, honestly. But it does need to be said that there is many ways that we could go about getting rid of this hatred that's going on in the world right now. And it's going to lead to the downfall of all society. Period. It doesn't matter if it's America or not. We keep this hatred up, it's going to lead to the downfall of everywhere. You know, and like everybody said, World War III, and that's a terrible thing. I would hate to think that World War III is going to happen in my lifetime. Because if it happens when I'm too old to go out and fight, I'm going to be mad because there goes my chance to go to Valhalla.
So many things come out of conversations like this. And once again, I am sorry that that happened to you. I am deeply offended that someone would do that to such a genuine, decent person. And it's just, I don't have anyone to, really talk to and support. And, here you are, you take the time to have a conversation with me on YouTube. But, distance
Well, you
can.
haven't given me your phone number yet, so I can't just call you up.
I know. But we need to start talking about how we're going to fix America because this brokenness, when I talk about this Xbox headset, which I'm going to purchase because I need therapy and I need VR therapy. I need it at this point. I'm gonna have a doctor say that. So I'm gonna purchase it. But I'm purchasing a technological device while the city burns around me. Like the city is on
Mm-hmm.
fire.
Literally,
Sometimes literally. I live in Los Angeles, so that can be a very literal thing.
especially with the riots going on out there right now.
But they're rioting over what? I need to understand this. As I said, I want to talk a little bit about some tech stuff. There's this game called The Outer Worlds 2.
I've heard about it.
And everyone is up in arms because the price for that game is $80. But these are the same people who pay for collector's editions with figurines and everything. They pay for digital deluxe editions for just an extra pixelated costume that they put on their character or like a little keychain that they have on their weapons. Like these are people who spend thousands of dollars for a skin for a gun in Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Thousands of
and
dollars. But they're complaining about $80 price tag for a double A or triple A, like really high quality game with storytelling and an important message. This is one of those games that I have to say you buy it. You buy it because it's an important message about the exploitation of workers and the income inequality. Like you can be poor, but you could be poor and happy.
you know, there's a game out there for the original Xbox when it first came out. It's called Red Fraction or Red Faction. Did you ever play that?
I remember playing that one.
That game was about corporate greed and corporate slavery. That's why they became the faction that they did. Um, I'll get right back to that. Give me just a moment.
Of course, of course. The problem that I have with all of these YouTubers talking about the price tag of the game is number one, they can definitely afford it. So
Sorry, my dog opened up the door and him and his brother were staring at each other like they were about to have a fight.
oh no.
Yeah, Shuck does not get along with his litter mate whatsoever. Him and Buddy try to kill each other. So we have to keep them separate.
How much is an $80 price tag for a video game if somebody gifts it to you for free?
In my opinion, if you get a lot of good use out of the game and you enjoy it, it's priceless because it's a gift from a friend. But if they give it to you and you really don't enjoy it, it's still an $80 price tag.
But it's an $80 price tag for one person. I said on my channel that I believe in this game. I believe in Obsidian. I'm actually going to write them a letter because I'm thinking about doing a Let's Play series of me playing the game and going through all of the psychology and the philosophy of it. So I want to purchase this game for another person. And I don't know how, but I think it's you.
I'd play it then for sure.
I think I'm gonna have to purchase this game for you, and then you you have a smartphone and an iPhone or something. You're on YouTube, so you have technology. You're gonna play it on your phone.
Yeah.
Stream
Hang on
yourself
just a
doing
second,
it.
man. I gotta drop a message. I gotta drop real fast.
Of course, of course.
Grr. I can't text.
Well, I mean, it's hard to text on a phone that you're using.
Well, my problem is my hands shake too much. My hands shake too much to try to hit the button. But anyway, sorry, my girl was trying to call, and I was like, "Hey, I'm on the phone right now."
No,
So
it's
I'll call her back.
it's completely cool, and you can always, you have a life. I mean,
Oh, I know, brother, but you need me right now. That's the deal. I saw that look on your face whenever I jumped on here. I was like, "No, my friend needs me right now."
thank you.
You know, that's all good. That's just the kind of person I am, brother. I might be straight, but I ain't, a jerk.
Thank you. And
But
as I said, I want to talk about how this game can redefine the culture if people pay attention. There's been so many series over generations. For me, I guess it's the outer worlds, but for other people, it's always been Star Wars.
Hmm.
The whole idea of the Empire versus the Jedi. Now, the Empire could be many things. It could be corporations, it could be countries, but the
Well,
Jedi,
the Empire in Star Wars was originally designed to represent corporate greed. It was designed to represent imperialist and corporate greed. So the Jedi represented Zen, happiness, and a good lifestyle.
and truly being in touch with yourself, with reality, and also something more. All that energy that they have in order, the Mandalorians, to move objects with their mind and see the future, create lightning bolts, all of that. That's actually within us. I mean, I know we've always seen it as a movie, but the ability to move things, to change people, to make the world a better place, that's real.
And
And
you see, it's
I
interesting you brought that up. It's very interesting you brought that up. I have been doing some research lately on a book called the Sophia of Christ, which Sophia means wisdom. So it's the wisdom of Christ. Because I research all religions. And I have found that the earliest version, the Naists, who used to worship Christianity, did not worship the God that we think of now. They actually called him Yaldabaoth, which means the dark one. You know, he was created by two other beings. You know, well, first there was first there was Ataxis, which was the supreme being. Then there was Sophia, the wife he created for himself through thought. And then they bore a child that they called Atlas, which was the first supposed to be human being. And he was equivalent to the gods. He was equivalent to the power of a god. And it was Yaldabaoth. Whenever Sophia tried to create a race by herself, she created Yaldabaoth and saw that he was terrible, and she cast him into a realm of twilight. And he was supposed to have the head of a dragon and the body of a dragon and the head of a lion. And in this Sophia of Christ, it explains from Jesus Christ himself that Yaldabaoth is actually a false god. So the god that everybody is worshiping is false, you know, in Christianity. Whereas Yaldabaoth is supposed to be the right one, you know, or Yaldabaoth is supposed to be the fake one, and Adamus was supposed to be the right one. And this is all supposed to be writings from Jesus Christ himself. And it surprised me when I found out that Christianity was as lost as I thought it was. You know, that's why I couldn't be a Christian. That's why I became a Viking pagan. Because in that belief, in the nihilist belief, we were not nihilist. The belief of these people that followed Atraxas, these beliefs of them was the very first Christianic religion ever to spawn. Not only that, but they believed that every human had in their right the ability to become a god in their own standing, and that was through enlightenment. And that enlightenment was through the building of knowledge, wisdom, skills, and things of that sort. It wasn't through servitude and solace and piousness. It was literally through industriousness, through knowledge, through courage, you know, all those things that a lot of these other religions hold true, you know, and it was surprising to me to find out that all those years I was pretty much correct. The original Christianic religion is gone. And that's why I couldn't follow it, because what's left behind is the teachings of Yaldabaoth. And I'm not going to teach, or I'm not going to follow a God that wants me to be a servant my whole life, you know. And now we've got leaders that want to be permanent leaders. They want their families to go on, they want to act like they're nobles. And there ain't nothing noble about them. There's nothing noble about them. There's nothing strong about them. There's nothing American about them. All they are is money. That's all they care about is cash. And guys, that's not good for us as the normal citizens. It's not good for us. That's not good for you as a soldier, especially. You know, it literally benefits only the rich, the way this whole system is set up. That's why they keep bringing up things like racism. That's why we keep having religious wars. It's because we are being distracted by this being called Yaldabaoth. And it's terrible whenever you think of these kinds of things, because we sit here for so long and let ourselves be indoctrinated by small, simple things. And yes, divide and conquer, Aaron. That's a good way of putting it. Um, and that's the whole thing. Keep us divided, keep us separate so that we cannot unite as a single person, as a single world entity. We can't do that if we've got all of our world leaders saying, well, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. It's just like whenever Trump came on and was like, Israel and Iran don't know what the F they're doing. Guess what, guys? They know what the hell they're doing. They've been doing it for 2,000 fucking years. They know exactly what they're doing. And for him to sit there and say they don't, who's to say you got any intelligence in your head? You bankrupt every company you get your hands on. But that's our leader.
There's a reason why people voted for him, and it's part of it is personality, but it's the need for an alpha. We've always had it in our headset of, yeah, we need a chief. And in life, you're supposed to be your own chief. You're supposed to be part of a tribe that you can trust, but you're supposed to be your own chief.
The
When
master of your own castle.
I thought of what I was going to wear for this podcast for today, I had many ideas, but I settled on this. And, I'm actually going to wear this every single time now. And the reason is I need to remind myself sometimes that I am divinity. I need to remind other people that they are divinity. I wear jewelry and, this isn't even, like real. But guess
By the
what?
way, my girlfriend would love the hell out of those rings.
They're gorgeous. But
She
I
loved
wear
her.
it because it reminds me of the fact that I am part of a god, or I do have godliness within me.
All of us do.
Make your home, make your apartment a palace. There's a reason why I'm a shaman. There's a reason why I'm a medicine man. And I think it's because I have a unique ability to cross, I guess, into an astral plane and speak to many different spirits, guides. And one of them is like a Muslim, like a, Hindu like guide, and it's guiding me toward this truth that there is godliness within us. There is a thing within us to have a castle, not to worship someone in a castle. There's a reason why the White House was built. It was built as a temple, and we have always treated it as a temple. We haven't treated it as that's a fortress for one person to, in a case of an emergency, keep themselves alive. You would like to think that the White House in an emergency is there to make sure America keeps running. That's not how that thing was constructed. That thing was specifically constructed to keep the president alive and fuck the rest
Yeah.
of the world, fuck the rest of the country, fuck the rest of Washington, D.C. And if you can think for a second that that's how politicians think about us, as less than the things that you leave on the Titanic as it's going down, you have to speak up. So, as much as I have PTSD from my military sexual trauma, from being an United States Air Force sex toy, broken, injured, discarded, and sexually abused, they don't have the right to tell me to stop talking about how much America needs heroes. Change.org/ Save American Heroes is more than just here's some money to veterans. It's a wake up call. You need to get your fucking money now because the world is fucking burning. And if you think that it's not going to take money to have a house, you need money for a house. You need money to not live in a house, to live on the road. They make zombie films, and people don't realize zombies happen. Zombies happen in modern times. People don't have a purpose. People walk into a store and they say, I don't know why I even walked in here. There are zombies. There are people who have just lost all control of their brain and faculties because of how browbeaten they are, how humiliated they are, and how ashamed they are to live the life that they do. I don't even know really what day of the week it is, and I'm glad. I'm glad because that means that I am out of that game that you just lose every single time, where you
Yeah.
get money to be abused every single day. Is that file done yet? Is that report done yet? We've got to make
Is
a
your
deposit.
bureaucracy nonsense finished so that you can get what you need?
Productivity. Really?
Red tape.
That's all it is. That's all it is to businesses. Like, where's your life? Where's your happiness? Where's your health?
Yeah.
Where is your health? You can talk about money, and I do often, but change.org/ Save American Heroes is about we need to make sure that our veterans are healthy because when shit goes down, they're the ones who have the expertise and the courage to stand up to all the bullies and to stand up to emergencies. I keep going back to Dancing with the Stars, where they had a group of like three active duty or like maybe they were veterans, but they were on a train and the train had a terrorist on it, and they were the ones who subdued the terrorists. While all the rest of the civilian passengers were cowering in their little seats, going, "Well, somebody's gonna let the man handle it." They did. They handled it.
Sorry. I carry this with me as a religious symbol. I would use it in a heartbeat.
But that kind of thinking comes from the same people who join the military. You join the military because you say, if something happens, I'm going to make sure that people get back home safely. I
Exactly.
lived in New York. When I used to see things unattended, when I used to, see things that were, wrong or amiss, I was the one who, said, no, number one, I got to report it. Number two, I got to make sure that the police are aware that there was a situation there. I was going to make that rapport with them, even though I am a certain color, whatever. I realize that you need to have that dialogue. You can't just shut down emotionally because you see someone in a uniform. They're there as a courtesy to you and to also keep the community thriving and alive. Open up your mouths, people. You need to start taking responsibility for things.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who do that instinctively. You don't have to poke and prod them and make ads for it. They just do it.
And
Give
personally,
them what they need in order to help the community more. When you give veterans money, some of them hookers and cocaine. And you know what? I don't judge you. I don't judge you. You
nope.
serve this nation. If that's how you want to spend your money, go right ahead. But others, they keep that vigilant eye on everything. That
Mm-hmm.
vigilant eye and that strong, steady hand to handle things. You want those people out in the world. You don't want those people just sitting and festering because some of us go super bad. So let's fix the nation by helping the veterans first. They gave
Exactly.
the most, they should get something.
And you see, there's a bit of a Texas thing, which it doesn't matter what race you are when it comes down to living here in Texas. We encourage teaching firearm safety and using firearms. We encourage the Second Amendment. And the reason why we do this is we had an incident in my hometown where a man busted into a church with a 12 gauge shotgun. He was going to try to kill as many people as he could. He didn't make it past the front door. 25 rounds into him from 25 different people. Everybody jumped up, fired once, but every single one of them shot him. And he hit the ground before he could ever do anything, and I encourage learning how to be a warrior, learning how to be a fighter. I encourage that big time. Everybody should learn self defense. Everybody should learn firearm safety. Everybody should learn how to use a melee weapon of some kind. And the whole reason being is because if you're caught without that thing, or if the world was like that, a lot less people would be stupid. A lot less people would think, oh, I'm going to go into this hospital and kill a bunch of people. Why? Because I can, and there's nobody that's going to defend them. When instead you bust into that hospital and you go start shooting somebody, everybody's grabbing scalpels, everybody's got a gun, everybody's grabbing a chair, everybody's ready to whoop your tail in as hard as they can, and you're not making it out alive. That is something I do encourage. And it's because it stops the insanity. Whenever there are too many people that are too dangerous, you don't want to be stupid. And that's why nobody really does stupid shit in Israel. Everybody there is in the military. And if they're not in the military, they're already being trained to go into the military for the simple fact that it's mandatory. So their moms and their dads teach them how to be a soldier right off the bat. And I believe in those kinds of things. I believe in those old teachings. And the biggest thing that I think we could take from the old world was how to live, you know, in nature, how to live a better life, a simpler life. There's an old Viking saying, if one wishes to live under the oak, one should tend to the oak. If one wishes to live in a country, one should tend to that country. That's just how it works, you know. And you've tended to this country. I tried to tend to this country, but I got kaplooey, got blown up. But hey, I had the courage to try. You know,
And
Not a
that's
lot of people do
something.
anymore.
That means something. You are a force for good in this world. I'm frantically trying to fix everything because
Uh-oh, looks like he may have froze for a minute, guys. I apologize for that. You need you a tripod, brother. And yes, you are correct there, Mix. At the end of the day, all you got your body. Mhm. Hmm. And you see, I'm a libertarian. I believe in the complete freedom and use of the Constitution before it was amended. Now, yes, there are some amendments that I do believe in, like the abolishment of slavery and things of that sort. But I believe in the freedoms this country was founded on. If I wanted to go find a piece of land and build a house, I should be able to go find a piece of land and build a house and claim so many acreage. If I wanted to go hunting and fishing to supply my family with food, I should be allowed to do that without having to spend $25 to $50 for a license. All I should have to be able to spend is $25 to $50 on some ammo. And that's if I don't start making my own ammunition. So, there's a lot of factors that we don't use anymore as modern day Americans that would benefit us all. And I hate to see the fact that we're no longer doing this. I hate to see the fact that we're devolving into these radical people that have these strange ideas that literally just don't benefit anybody. Yeah, sure, I dress different. Yeah, sure, I'm a schizophrenic, you know, but at least I have a head on my shoulders. At least I'm not one of these people running out there spouting that if you misgender somebody, you should go to jail. At least I'm not one of these people running around out there saying that all people that aren't of color are inherently racist. Because guys, I could literally turn around and say that about certain other people. But you know what? I'm not going to do it. And the reason being is because I am white. I'm going to get in a bunch of trouble for it if I do it. I know how it is to live as a white folk. And the way it is right now, it's terrifying because there's so many people calling for our heads, and it's getting to the point where it's reaching my hometown, and that's terrible. You know, we're way out in the middle of nowhere, and it's reaching us here. And it breaks my heart to know that we live in such a world of ignorance, such a world of unintelligence. We live in a world where people literally think the dumber you are, the better it is. How many times have we seen them glorify a gangster lifestyle? When guys, those people die young, they die terribly, and if they don't die young, they wind up in prison. And that's a terrible thing. And that's not just any race, that's all races. That's all races. There are gangsters and thug life everywhere. And guys, racism, that's the stupidest thing on the planet. There is no reason why anybody should be racist. We're all human beings. We're all just different color. That's it. You should not be considered less than a human being because of your skin tone. You should never be considered less of a human being because you went through trouble. You should never be considered less of a human being because you have mental trouble. Guys, we are literally starting to treat everyone around us like they're objects, not humans. And that's why I try to be a voice of reason in a world of chaos. Because in a world with full of demons, there can be no heroes. But one may rise one day. And that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm so glad that you're very vocal about your mental difficulties. But every time that you mention it, I just want to stress to you, is it worse to see things that aren't there or to see things that are there and you still ignore them? Like if you see a monster and it's a monster to you, you know, at least you're seeing something. These people, they see oppression, they see poverty, they see all of it. I had a body outside my apartment when I went outside. Just somebody covered in a red sheet on the sidewalk, not moving, just a body there. And I had to say to myself, do I see this? Do I acknowledge this? Do I allow this into my spirit? And then do I do something about it?
Yeah.
I don't want to live like this. This is why I want my disability benefits, because why am I living in a neighborhood which has a body on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I live as a disabled veteran, but I have a body on the sidewalk. Why?
And no, it's not right.
It's not right on both sides. It's not right that that person's out there like trash, and it's not right that a veteran lives in trash. Why is a veteran living in trash? I'm
Yeah,
not
I
saying
know.
every veteran should live in a palace, because I don't even want a palace anymore. The longer I stay here, you know what I want? I want a tent on an acreage, a tent on an acreage where I can say, "This is mine, and if you step into mine."
See, I just want an acre, maybe 2 acres. That's all I want out of life. An acre or maybe 2. And that way I can make a garden, possibly have a pond, get it stocked. I can make my shop, I can make my forge, and then I can have my RV out there. You know,
Why is America in such a stingy fucking mood that they would go to war with some other country while the veterans who bleed, die, and are tortured in this country get nothing? I hate to be this way, but why is my president in any case, in any term, saying, "Well, you get an F-17 and you get an F-17," just over giving away military aircraft to other nations to fight wars, which, I'm sorry, I still don't have a fucking say in. They didn't ask me, "Can you fight for Ukraine?" They didn't ask me. They made a decision for me. So when you piss off Russia and Russia comes calling at some point, and they will,
mhm.
where was my say in that? Where was my say in any of that?
I don't know, but I know that that's why the reason why I continue to train with this, and I'm getting a bigger one. I found a Danish axe that I'm going to be purchasing from Cold Steel. Real nice. Thinking about calling it either the Midgard axe or thinking about calling it Yarmungandr. Just big ol' axe, guys. And yes, this is a tool. This is a tool for war and for making whatever I need. Guys, I don't build stuff with modern day materials. If I build something, go out and harvest it myself. I go out and I get the wood myself and I build a shelter like they used to have back in the day. And Stormbreaker would be a good one. Thank you. But I do try to take and do my best to live a simpler life, to live a better life, to live a healthier life. Guys, I'm different. I'm strange. I know it. I'm a straight white guy hanging out with a gay black man. Come on now. I know I'm a little weird. I know I'm a little crazy, zany, and out there. But you know what? I enjoy it. And I like to spread that love and that peace and that happiness around. Why? Because I'm supposed to be hospitable. It is according to my faith, the Asa true way, the Viking way. We are supposed to be hospitable to anyone, but we're also supposed to do this, which this coincides with your talk about a soldier being vigilant. Part of the teachings of Odin in the Havamal are simply when one enters a dwelling, one should spy around and pry around, for enemies can be lurking at any corner. So anytime I enter somewhere, my hand's on my axe and I'm looking around. I'm watching every person that walks around. And if we could instill
Somebody said, "Who put their hand on my ass?"
Yeah, man, I've actually been groped just like you were talking about, dude. I walked into a bar one day and somebody saw the armor and the axe and they immediately reached for the butt cheek, man. You know, I agree with you there, no scoper. You know, that's actually a really good idea. I've thought about joining the Amish community if they would accept me for me being a Viking, but they won't accept me as a pagan. But I do blacksmithing, leatherworking, woodcrafting, kinds of stuff. I kept up with it while you was gone, brother. Well, he's still a little frozen. He'll get there eventually. But oh, see, told you. Now he's back.
That was so odd. I don't know. No job is going to tangible because it's down. There's not enough money in rich people. Ellen DeGeneres didn't have enough money to stop COVID from affecting her. Idris Elba has Marvel money, and he couldn't stop COVID from fucking him up. Look at the pictures. He has money, and he couldn't stop that shit. So don't say a job when I'm talking about we need to get this fucking country in order because when shit goes down, they say fuck you. They didn't have a FEMA plan, they didn't have a vaccine, have anything. Left you out to
Yep.
dry. And you want to talk to me about, oh, well, if you had a job, you'd get all of that. No, I'm too busy learning the competencies that I have for the next thing that comes after the COVID, because that's the kind of American I am. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, you and the rest of the VA seem to think that my time, my skill, my expertise is not worth the minimum of the disability. $1,000 a month is around what 100% is.
Yeah.
Do you know how much someone makes in as a musician or a sports star? Millions, if not billions. So don't fucking talk to me about money and jobs when I'm talking about what good is that? What good is any of that if you can't live in this country? Even with the 2 acres that you have there, Clint, what would you do if someone else says, I just want your land now? You would
I'd
defend
kill
yourself. You would defend yourself. But that's how all of America operates. No matter how much you have, no matter how hard you work, there's always going to be someone hopped up on drugs or just fucking cruel who wants your stuff.
them. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why I have a dog. That's why I have my axe. That's why I have several shotguns. You know, I mean, you got to prepare yourself. You got to protect yourself. Shuck, would you not hit the stand? Thank you. But, you know, guys, I got to go, unfortunately, now. I do have to get to work, and the armor's getting a little sweaty. So,
Thank
yeah.
you so much for coming by there, Clint, and think it over. Get back to me in an email because I think I want to give the Outer Worlds to you so that you can play it. So think on that, okay? It comes out in October, so get back to me if you want it.
All right. I'll definitely let you know, man. And don't forget, anytime you go live, I'm here ready with Troll's Bane, brother.
Thank you, Clint.
All right. No problem, man. See you next time. And remember, everybody, love your mama, love your papa, love yourself, be kind, and always find a way to help everyone. Check you next time.
Everyone follow Clint. The link to his channel is in my description. See if I can catch up on some of these messages. How is everyone? Aaron Schumann, disabled veterans should get 3 times what they get. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But it's not just about the money. I mean, what is the point of having a golden toilet seat if your house is on fire? Now you have a melted golden toilet seat. Some veterans just want some land that they could live a life of peace and serenity. Sir, why you voted Trump? I voted Trump because he is a person who gets shit done. And he, at least in his own way, in some way, always seems to keep American interests at heart by increasing tariffs on American products. He is actually helping America. He's helping American manufacturing companies and American owned businesses, that's for sure, and also American content creators. But he's also telling people around the world our stuff is worth more, and maybe you need to be more discerning with how you spend your money. If you spend your money on buying American Cheetos, you might want to think about saving it for carrots. It's the same orange color, but one is slightly better than the other. No offense to Cheetos. There are some people who all they can afford is Cheetos, and I say, well, you could probably afford at least one J Booze, you people are just so rude sometimes, but you know what? I'm so grateful for Clint coming into this channel and just breathing in some life. He's so open and honest about what's going on with his life. And he should be treated with respect. He really should. He's a good, decent person, always has a smile on his face, always tries to help another person. What are you going to do? You can't please everyone. You really can't. So I'm not going to try. victims have rights. I have the right to talk about America. I have a right to talk about how America is fucking me out of a life. Period. I mean, it's a life that I'm living. It's not the life I want. I want to be an astronaut. I didn't talk about it with Clint, but he knows that I have my petition change.org/genius to Mars because Mars is the future. Mars is the prize. This is not it. This is not it. We have learned so much over millennia and we waste it. We waste it. You know, I woke up today and I went for my normal walk. He wears his armor when he goes outside. I wear a hazmat suit when I go outside because the truth is the air is toxic in Los Angeles. The air is toxic in California. The air is toxic in America. And it's probably toxic in your town, wherever you are. Only Americans can talk about America. It's kind of funny. Who is an American? Who? Because if it's a bunch of pale people who are fleeing religious persecution in their own country and then form this one, um, I don't really consider that true American. I don't even consider Native Americans true Americans because there is no such thing. America is a concept. Some people say it's a land, some people say it's a people, but it's a concept because the people, they don't even come from America. Any black person that is in America, you may have been born here, but you're not from here. And America lets you know that every chance they get. I know you want to say N word. It feels good to say. When you say that N word and it comes out your mouth, it feels very satisfying. Nothing captures the moment like that. But we refrain from that. We refrain from that in this chat. Hopefully, things improve. Well, they don't improve by themselves. You have to speak up. And right now, I'm struggling with eating. I'm struggling with having enough food to eat while also keeping my sanity. There's no other way to say it. Keeping my sanity as America does everything to traumatize me further so I become a better customer. Don't think I didn't catch that, but I did. Yeah, so there is a trend that the more you abuse and torture and traumatize Americans, the more they'll spend because they're trying to fill a void. And there's nothing like the feeling of unwrapping a present or a delivery because it reminds you about, maybe getting a Christmas present or a birthday present. I'm not against it. You know, if you had a crummy day, buy yourself something nice. Treat yourself, you know, well. I do have a problem with the whole we have to torture you in order to take your money from you. We torture you so you think, oh no, I don't need food. I don't want to. Because that's what America does to me. It really does. Which is precisely why the United Nations Human Rights Commission is going to investigate the United States for what it has done to me by sexually abusing me, violating me, violating my American rights and also my human rights. Because when I was in the Air Force, they treated me as a sex toy. And there is no excuse for that. It's so dehumanizing, it's so humiliating, and I want justice. I really do. So, victims have rights. I'll cry. I will cry. I will cry. I will cry and cry some. But I'm also going to get on camera and tell the world what a shitty fucking country you are for doing that. Shitty fucking country for how you don't handle your shit when emergencies happen, and that you use something like COVID to stimulate the economy instead of stimulating our brains. That there must have been something fundamentally broken if a pandemic sweeps through. Teach you something about what it means to have international commerce and to not manufacture things locally. But that's not a conversation we have. About build a wall here, build a wall there, build a there. I don't even know what they want to build anymore. But we don't have a conversation about international trade. International trade pretty much decimated the population during the COVID crisis, and nobody talks about that. In fact, nobody really talks about what it means when a biological terrorist event, which is what COVID was, it wasn't a pandemic, it's a biological terrorist event. And nobody talks about that. I keep talking about it because I live here. I have to live here in this fucking disgusting, densely populated area with all these people who just want to leap in front of your fucking face, breathe into it, touch you, touch all your shit, and you have to say, well, I don't want to deal with wolves and bears, so I'll just deal with humans, which in some cases is slightly worse. Victims have rights. So, I want the value of my country. I want change.org/save American heroes to be enacted into law. But even that is not enough. Just to say that there's a tax where the money goes directly to veterans instead of the VA is not enough. We need to have a country where people can walk down the street again. If you can't do that in your town, in your city, because of gang violence or disease or poverty or just a city too self-absorbed to fix the damn roads and raise the curbs so people don't get hit, then there is something wrong with this. Either way, you came into this podcast and you learned something. If all you learned is that you disagree, then maybe you learned to speak up about that. I know that having a troll in your channel is a terrible thing because it's extremely negative and it's rude. But it should also remind you that it is always good to be vocal, even if you disagree with what someone says. Freedom of speech should always be protected. It's the reason why, as much as I hate every last one of you people, I live in America. Freedoms, inalienable rights. That I expect to have honored. Going into this next month, I'm going to be struggling and struggling and struggling, and the 4th of July is not going to make things any easier. They're already starting the fireworks and the PTSD. It's just not it's just not a happy moment. So that's going to be an interesting day. I haven't eaten breakfast. Haven't even had 11 seeds. I don't know what else to say. I'm hurt and disappointed by the way the Department of Veteran Affairs has treated me. But it's so much more than that. It really is. We need to fix America. If you live in this city, live in the country at all, you have to have a vested interest in making sure that the country thrives and survives. And there's so many inequalities which are tearing it apart. In the outer worlds too, and about gifting to someone. And I'm going to gift it to Clint. I want him to play it because when a publishing company like Obsidian or even Capcom makes a storyline, graphics and pixels and all of that, they're also trying to teach you something. Capcom says that they want my opinion. Here's my opinion. I love your company. I really do. I don't think people are getting the message. Or getting the message about anything that's going on in this world. And I like Amazon because Amazon tries, but it's not the same. There's a new Resident Evil coming out. I haven't even seen the trailer for it. I haven't because as much as I like the entire series, especially the movies are fucking fantastic. Brilliant, really. The idea of zombies walking around isn't that how most people live their lives? When I talk about this headset that I'm going to get, this Xbox headset from Facebook and Xbox. Xbox is a whore right now, and I'm okay with that. Xbox is a little slutty, and I think I like this new promiscuous Xbox because Xbox is fucking around with Aces, it's fucking around with Facebook, sorry, Meta. But what's the difference between a zombie and someone who's pretty much in a graphic induced coma? I still buy the product. Though. What is happening to this world that even without trauma, nobody really wants to live in it anymore? By putting a headset on, you're saying, I don't want to live in reality. That's sad. It's really sad. Either way, I think I'll call it there. Um, I don't know. I felt emboldened to reach out to people. It's still my country, even though it's an abusive little twat. America is still my country. I won't fight for it. I will fight for its people. I'll fight for always speak your mind. If you disagree with anything that you have seen or heard on this channel, please start your own. I'm going to continue to have wonderful guests like Clint on my channel. Allow him to speak his mind on any and everything. Because when you challenge a person's view on something, it either strengthens the foundation of their conviction or it washes it away like the bullshit it always was. I hope that you learn the difference and that you learn to respect yourself enough to be curious and make your own mind up and not let any influence